They had a single moment in the spotlight.
Got it! Denver and Tebow have won! 18 unanswered points.
One perfect season.
His rookie year, he was, off the charts. Every type of record he broke in Washington.
One historic game.
5 touchdown, Washington Redskins. Holy cow, say the Broncos. Who is that?
They vanished. Some found redemption off the field, others struggled with life after football, and a few stories ended in tragedy. Take the first guy on our list. He rushed for a Super Bowl record 204 yards in the biggest game of his life, and just a few years later, he was trying to sell cocaine to an undercover police officer. Let's start this off with some epic one-game wonder performances. This video is sponsored by iconicplays.com. But more on them later. Yeah, nobody quite defines one-year wonder like Timmy Smith. After being drafted in the 5th round by Washington in 1987, Smith spent most of his rookie season on the bench. Then, in Super Bowl 22, head coach Joe Gibbs made a decision that would change NFL history. He gave Smith the starting nod over veteran George Rogers. What happened next was pure football magic. Smith exploded for 204 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns against the Denver Broncos, setting a Super Bowl rushing record that stands to this day. The rookie looked unstoppable, and Washington cruised to a 42-10 victory. Everyone thought they were watching the birth of the next great NFL running back, but the following season, he managed just 470 yards and 3 touchdowns, struggling with conditioning and dedication. By 1990, he was out of the league entirely, and things only got worse from there. In 2005, Smith hit rock bottom when he was arrested for trying to sell cocaine to an undercover police officer. He served time in prison and has largely stayed out of the public eye since, his remarkable Super Bowl performance becoming more of a trivia question than anything else. Speaking of epic single-game performances, let's talk about Jonas Gray. After bouncing around practice squads for 2 years, Gray finally got his shot with the New England Patriots in 2014. On a cold November night in Indianapolis, he put together one of the greatest games by a running back in NFL history. Gray steamrolled the Colts for 201 yards and 4 touchdowns, landing him on the cover of Sports Illustrated. But his moment in the spotlight was short-lived. The very next week, Gray showed up late to practice and found himself in Bill Belichick's doghouse. He barely touched the field again that season, watching from the sidelines as New England won the Super Bowl. By 2016, he was out of the league entirely. Today, Gray has reinvented himself in the tech industry, working in software sales and doing motivational speaking engagements where he often reflects on his brief brush with NFL stardom. But if you want to talk about meteoric rises and falls, no one's story is quite as wild as Peyton Hillis. After being drafted as a fullback in the 7th round, Hillis got his chance with the Cleveland Browns in 2010 when their top 2 running backs went down with injuries. What followed was one of the most unexpected breakout seasons in NFL history. Every week, a slow dude from Arkansas became the worst nightmare for NFL defenses. At one time, he looked completely unstoppable, like when he ran all over the New England Patriots in racking up 184 yards and 2 touchdowns, or when he destroyed the Ravens' top rushing defense for 144 yards and a score. At the end of the season, he had bulldozed his way to over 1,600 combined yards and 13 touchdowns, becoming a fan favorite in Cleveland. His bruising running style and unlikely success story made him so popular that fans voted him onto the cover of Madden NFL 12, making him the first Cleveland Brown to ever grace the cover. But the Madden curse struck hard and fast. Hillis never came close to matching that production again, struggling with injuries and contract disputes. By 2014, he was out of the league. But Hillis's most heroic moment came long after his playing days. In January 2023, he nearly lost his life while saving his children from drowning at a Florida beach. Other one-hit wonders have found different ways to make an impact after football. Take Michael Clayton. When the Tampa Bay Buccaneers selected him 15th overall in 2004, they thought they were getting a solid prospect. What they got instead was a receiver who took the league by storm. Clayton put together one of the most impressive debut seasons ever by a receiver, hauling in 80 catches for 1,193 yards and 7 touchdowns. He showed incredible hands and route running ability, breaking the Buccaneers' rookie receiving record and looking like a cornerstone of their offense for years to come. Tampa Bay fans were convinced they had found their version of Randy Moss. But that's where the highlight reel ends. Clayton's production fell off a cliff in his second season, managing just 372 yards and no touchdowns. Despite playing for 6 more years, he never topped 500 yards in a season again. Injuries and inconsistent play derailed what looked like a promising career. Today, Clayton has found his calling off the field, working as a sports commentator and running charity initiatives for underprivileged youth. He's turned his brief moment of NFL stardom into a platform for helping others. But if you want to talk about sudden drop-offs, Josh Norman has to be near the top of the list. He went from top dog DB to horse tamer in just a couple of years. After 2 unremarkable seasons in Carolina, Norman exploded onto the scene in 2015. He transformed into the league's most feared cornerback overnight, earning first-team All-Pro honors while leading the Panthers to a 15-1 record and a Super Bowl appearance. At one point, Norman was so dominant that opposing quarterbacks often avoided throwing to his side of the field entirely. His lockdown coverage and trash-talking persona made him one of the NFL's biggest stars and got him into some sticky situations a couple of times.
It's like, hey man, stop that shit now. All that shit gonna get your ass whooped.
Like when he decided to fight starting quarterback Cam Newton during training camp, or get into the skin of Odell Beckham Jr. That offseason, Washington rewarded Norman with a massive 5-year, $75 million contract, making him the highest-paid quarterback in NFL history. But he never recaptured his 2015 magic. His play declined sharply, and after bouncing around to several teams, he quietly exited the league in 2021, riding into the sunset, if you wish. Besides horse-mongering,
you and your beast, you become the horse and the horse becomes you in a way.
He's making an actual impact off the field. Through his Stars 24 Foundation, he's donated over $3.5 million to youth organizations, proving that sometimes a player's greatest achievements have nothing to do with football. And while those stories are dramatic enough, we haven't even touched on the most famous cases yet. We're talking about a quarterback who captivated the country with miraculous fourth-quarter comebacks, a receiver who looked like the second coming of Jerry Rice before personal demons derailed his career, and a Heisman Trophy winner whose story ended in tragedy. But first, let's talk about some players who nearly made our list, guys who had incredible peaks, but just don't quite qualify as true one-year wonders. Take Rex Grossman, for instance. While many Bears fans might consider Sexy Rexy a one-hit wonder, he actually had multiple seasons of both brilliance and disaster. His 2006 campaign, which was peak Rex G, saw him lead Chicago to the Super Bowl, throwing for 3,193 yards and 23 touchdowns. But Grossman was famously inconsistent. He could look like a Pro Bowler one week and throw 4 interceptions the next. The Bears faithful dubbed this phenomenon Good Rex and Bad Rex, making him more of a roller coaster than a one-year wonder. Speaking of quarterbacks with wild swings, how about Nick Foles? His magical 2013 season with the Eagles saw him throw 27 touchdowns against just 2 interceptions, earning a Pro Bowl nod. But unlike true one-year wonders, Foles had another moment of glory when he replaced an injured Carson Wentz in 2017, led Philadelphia to a Super Bowl victory, and earned Super Bowl MVP honors. IconicPlays.com. Get a unique Iconic Play poster and gear from IconicPlays.com. You can find plays, like in this instance, the Philly Special, and plenty of others. For a limited time only, the Longest Yard watchers get 15% off with the promo code TheLongestYard. Scan the code or go to IconicPlays.com to shop for yours. Now, back to the video. Foles' peak, catching the Philly Special pass in the Super Bowl, might have been brief, but having multiple highs similar to these disqualifies him from true one-hit wonder status. Then there's David Boston, who fell just short of our list for a different reason. His 2001 season with the Cardinals was phenomenal. 1,598 yards and 8 touchdowns had him looking like one of the NFL's elite receivers. And yeah, he did have a sudden drop-off after that. But he actually had another solid year in 2000 with 1,156 yards, making his breakout less surprising. But enough about the almost wers. Let's get back to the real one-hit wonders. Starting with a quarterback who gave Cleveland Browns fans their only taste of hope in a decades-long drought. Derek Anderson's 2007 season came out of absolutely nowhere. After Charlie Fry was benched in Week 1, Anderson took over and transformed into a completely different quarterback. He came out firing in his first start, throwing for 5 touchdowns and leading Cleveland to their highest scoring game since 1964, putting up a whopping 52 points on the Bengals. At the end of the season, he had thrown for 3,787 yards and 29 touchdowns, leading the Browns to a shocking 10-6 record. Once again, Cleveland fans finally thought they had found their franchise quarterback. But all that came to be was that Anderson earned himself a hefty contract extension along with a Pro Bowl selection. But, like so many others on our list, Anderson's success was fleeting. Maybe it was on him, maybe it was on the Browns organization, as usual. But the very next season, he threw just 9 touchdowns against 8 interceptions before losing his starting job. Over the next decade, decade, he would start only 24 more games, never throwing for more than 2,065 yards in a season. Today, Anderson has found his calling in player development, working particularly close with Josh Allen during their time together in Buffalo. While Anderson managed to find purpose after his NFL career, not every one-year wonder story has a happy ending. Perhaps no tale illustrates this more tragically than that of Rashaan Salaam. Coming into the NFL, Salaam seemed destined for greatness. The 1994 Heisman Trophy winner was selected 21st overall by the Chicago Bears, and his rookie season appeared to confirm all the hype. Salaam rushed for 1,074 yards and 10 touchdowns, becoming the youngest player in the NFL to break the 1,000-yard mark. Bears fans thought they had found their next great running back, a worthy successor to Walter Payton and Gale Sayers. But injuries and personal struggles quickly derailed his promising career. Salaam would never again rush for more than 500 yards in a season. By 1999, he was out of the league entirely, having played his last snap at just 25 years old. The struggles continued long after his playing days as he battled depression and the challenges of life after football. In December 2016, Salaam's story came to a tragic end when he sadly took his own life. While Salaam's story represents the darkest outcome one-year wonders, some players have managed to find joy and purpose despite their careers being cut short. Take Ickey Woods, whose NFL journey was as unique as his famous touchdown dance. As a rookie in 1988, Woods took the league by storm. He rumbled for 1,066 yards and 15 touchdowns, earning second-team All-Pro honors and helping lead the Bengals to the Super Bowl. But it wasn't just his running that made him a sensation. It would be the Ickey Shuffle, his iconic touchdown celebration that became a cultural phenomenon. The bruising fullback with the smooth dance moves looked like he would be terrorizing defenses for years to come. Then, just 2 games into his second season, Woods tore his ACL. He was never the same player again. Despite multiple comeback attempts, he never rushed for more than 300 yards in a season and retired in 1991, just 3 years after his spectacular debut. But Woods turned his brief moment of fame into something meaningful. He founded the Ickey Woods Youth Foundation, and after tragically losing his son to asthma, established the Javante Woods Foundation to raise awareness about asthma and provide scholarships. He's kept his famous shuffle alive too.
Number 44.
Woo! 44, that's me! Get some cold cuts, get some cold cuts, get some cold cuts. Woo! Give me some!
And while we're talking about injuries derailing careers, Robert Griffin III would like a word or two. In 2012, RG3 took Washington by storm, outshining even first overall pick Andrew Luck with electric running and precision passing. Griffin threw for 3,200 yards and 20 touchdowns against just 5 interceptions, while adding 815 yards and 7 touchdowns on the ground. His quarterback rating of 102 was pretty much unheard of for a rookie, and back-to-back 4-touchdown performances against division rivals Philadelphia and Dallas had Washington fans dreaming of a decade of dominance. But everything changed in the playoffs against Seattle. Griffin's knee buckled on FedEx Field's notorious turf, leading to a devastating knee injury. What people forget is that 2 weeks before, he had suffered a grade 1 LCL sprain and minor tear against the Ravens. After sitting out just 1 week and not even being medically cleared to play, Washington decided to start him anyway against the Seahawks. It was almost like they wanted to make sure the ligaments would completely tear for their franchise quarterback before resting him. I mean, who needs knees to play football anyway? The injury would alter his career trajectory forever. Despite multiple comeback attempts, he never recaptured the magic of that rookie season. The quarterback, who once seemed destined to change the game, was relegated to backup duty by 2015. Today, Griffin has reinvented himself as one of ESPN's most insightful NFL analysts, and he's worth a follow on X too, especially when he posts juicy snack content from his travels to Paris. But around the same time Griffin was trying to resurrect his career, another quarterback was writing his own unlikely chapter in NFL history. After bouncing around the league as a backup, Case Keenum found himself starting for the Vikings in 2017 due to injuries. What followed was the kind of season journeyman quarterbacks dream about. Keenum led Minnesota to an 11-3 record as a starter, throwing for 3,547 yards and 22 touchdowns. His finest moment came in the playoffs against New Orleans when he connected. Unfortunately, this is the peak of Vikings football success for the last 50 years or so. Good news is that Vikings fans can now relive that by buying the Minneapolis Miracle poster on iconicplays.com. Despite parlaying that magical season into a starting job with Denver, Keenum never recaptured the magic. He spent the next 5 years backing up quarterbacks across the league, some of whom weren't even born when he started his college career. And speaking of players who rewrote their own story, Terrell Pryor's career might be the most unique one-year wonder story ever told. A college quarterback at Ohio State, he was drafted in the 3rd round of the 2011 NFL Supplemental Draft. Pryor initially tried to make it as a signal caller in Oakland. And in 2013, he showed flashes. He threw for 1,798 yards and rushed for 576 more that season. But that wasn't his real breakout season. 3 years later, Pryor completely reinvented himself as a wide receiver with the Cleveland Browns of all teams. The transformation was remarkable. In the 2016 season, he linked up with RG3 of all people and racked up 1,007 receiving yards, highlighted by a Week 3 masterpiece against Miami where he caught for 144 yards and even threw a touchdown pass. Here was a quarterback turned receiver who could do it all, seemingly poised to revolutionize the position. Instead, Pryor never reached 300 yards receiving again. He bounced between Washington, Buffalo, and the Jets before quietly exiting the league. His 2016 season stands as one of football's great what-if moments, a glimpse of what might have been if he'd found his true position earlier in his career. But when it comes to meteoric rises and falls, few stories are as dramatic as Jay Ajayi's. In 2016, Jay Ajayi exploded. The Dolphins running back put together one of the most remarkable seasons in NFL history, rushing for 1,272 yards and 8 touchdowns. What made it truly special was how he did it. Ajayi became only the 4th player ever to record 3 200-yard rushing games in a single season, including back-to-back 200-yard performances against the Steelers and Bills. Miami fans thought they'd found their next great running back, and the Pro Bowl selection seemed to confirm it. Ajayi's bruising running style and breakaway speed had defensive coordinators losing sleep. He even earned the nickname J-Train for the way he steamrolled through defenses. But despite being able to spell his whole name with only 4 letters, the following season spelled trouble. The J-Train quickly ran out of steam, and his production dropped to 800 yards the next season, and then to just 400 yards after that. In 2017, he did become a Super Bowl champion as a backup with the Eagles, but by 2019, he was out of the league entirely. Yet, Ajayi's story has an unexpected second act. He's reinvented himself as a music artist under the name Finesse, releasing a 10-track album called The Motive in 2021. And while some one-year wonders find new careers, others spend years trying to recreate their magic moment. Devontae Parker's career is a masterclass in the art of almost. The Dolphins' 2015 first-round pick spent years showing tantalizing flashes of brilliance, but it wasn't until 2019 that everything finally clicked. That season, Parker transformed into the dominant receiver Miami had been waiting for, hauling in 72 catches for 1,202 yards and 9 touchdowns. His breakout year peaked in Week 12 against the Eagles, when he put on a show for the ages. Parker torched Philadelphia's secondary for 159 yards and 2 touchdowns, propelling the Dolphins to a thrilling 37-31 victory. His contested catches and highlight reel plays had fans comparing him to prime Randy Moss. But just as quickly as the switch had flipped on, it flipped back off. Despite playing 6 more seasons with the Dolphins and the Patriots, Parker never again topped 800 yards receiving. The flip side? The next guy on our list. As a rookie in 2020, Chase Claypool looked like the NFL's next great receiver. The Steelers' second-round pick earned the nickname Mapletron for his incredible combination of size and speed, drawing comparisons to Calvin Johnson. He snagged 62 catches for 873 yards and 9 touchdowns, including a 4-touchdown performance against the Eagles that had the entire league on notice.
There's Claypool. As Roethlisberger throws, Claypool makes the catch.
The future seemed bright for the Canadian sensation. He had Steelers fans believing they'd found their next superstar receiver. And even more impressively, he had done it all as a rookie during the COVID-shortened season without a proper offseason to prepare. But something changed after that magical first year. Claypool's production declined sharply, and he never found the end zone more than twice in any subsequent season, hitting bottom.
Pass caught by Claypool, first down, clock running.
And it may come up and clock it now. There he goes. They got it now. The balls, they can't get the ball to the official. He's trying to scramble to get it set.
During a potential game-winning drive against the Vikings on Thursday Night Football. For Chase, celebrating was more important than winning. That's Mapletron for you. As you can imagine, time ran out for the Steelers in that game, and so did Claypool's welcome in Pittsburgh. He bounced from Pittsburgh to Chicago to Miami, becoming better known for social media controversies than on-field production. And while Claypool at least got to stick around the league, some one-year wonders disappeared almost without a trace. Because if you think you've heard of surprising one-year wonders, wait until you hear about Patrick Jeffers. Even dedicated NFL historians might have trouble placing the name, despite him owning a Super Bowl ring with the Broncos, 98 catches, 1,563 yards, and 14 touchdowns. No, that's not a single season. That's his career numbers, but most of that came in a single magical season. In 1999, Jeffers seemingly emerged from thin air to become one of the league's most dangerous receivers. He racked up 63 catches for 1,082 yards and 12 touchdowns for the Carolina Panthers, looking like their answer at wide receiver for years to come. Then, just a as suddenly as he appeared, he vanished. A devastating ACL tear in 2000 led to surgery on both knees, and Jeffers was never the same again. His entire career is perhaps the purest example of a one-year wonder, a player who showed incredible potential for a brief moment before fate intervened. But if there's one guy who can top that, it's our next player, a wide receiver that Browns fans know all too well. Yeah, no one-year wonder's story is quite as bittersweet as Josh Gordon's. In 2013, the Browns receiver put together one of the most dominant seasons in NFL history under circumstances that almost defy belief. Despite playing with 3 different quarterbacks and missing 2 games due to suspension, Gordon exploded for 1,646 yards and 9 touchdowns. He became the first receiver ever to record back-to-back 200-yard games, and his 87.1 yards per game remains the NFL record. What made it even more incredible was that defenses knew the ball was coming his way. Cleveland had no other offensive weapons, yet Gordon still couldn't be stopped. But personal demons derailed what could have been a Hall of Fame career. Gordon missed the entire 2015 and 2016 seasons due to substance abuse violations. Though he attempted numerous comebacks with the Patriots, Seahawks, Chiefs, and Titans, he never came close to matching his 2013 form. He was still catching passes as recently as 2022, but by then, his magical season felt like ancient history. Today, Gordon continues to chase his football career dreams at lower levels, including stints in the XFL, while focusing on his personal recovery journey. While Gordon's NFL career faded slowly, some one-year wonders are gone overnight. No story better exemplifies this than Tim Tebow. Tebow had one of the most successful college football careers of all time, winning 2 BCS national championships with the University of Florida. He took over as a starter on a 1-4 Broncos team and would create NFL's answer to insanity, Tebow time. He defied every conventional quarterback metric, leading the Broncos to the playoffs. His throwing motion was awkward, his completion percentage was brutal, and for 3/4 of every game, he often looked completely overwhelmed. But then the 4th quarter would arrive, and something inexplicable would happen. Tebow would transform into an unstoppable force, engineering comeback after improbable comeback.
There's only one person that carries the ball right here. One person that carries the ball.
The peak of Tebow mania came in the playoffs against Pittsburgh. Despite being massive underdogs, Tebow saved his best for last. On the first play of overtime, he hit Demaryius Thomas on a slant route that turned into an 80-yard touchdown, giving Denver their first playoff win in 6 years. The stadium erupted, and it seemed like the Tebow era was just beginning. Instead, it was already over. Denver signed Peyton Manning that offseason, and Tebow never started another NFL game. Today, he's built a career as a college football analyst, motivational speaker, and philanthropist, with his Tebow Foundation making a significant impact in multiple communities. But he's left a lot of fans wondering, what if? From Super Bowl records to Monday Night Miracles, these players remind us that NFL greatness can be incredibly fleeting. Some found purpose beyond the game. Others continue chasing that elusive second chapter. And tragically, some stories ended far too soon. But perhaps what makes these one-year wonders so special, in a league where sustained excellence is the goal, they gave us moments of brilliance that still shine bright years later. Sometimes, one perfect season is enough to leave a lasting mark on NFL history.